In the heart of a remote wilderness, where no phone signal reaches, and the nearest town is miles away, there exists a forest with a sinister reputation. Locals call it the Whispering Forest. They warn travellers never to enter after dark, for those who do often return with horrifying tales or don't return at all. Mark and Lisa, a married couple in their early 30s, decided to take a weekend camping trip to reconnect. They had heard the rumours about the Whispering Forest, but dismissed them as silly legends meant to scare tourists. Armed with a tent, flashlights and plenty of supplies, they set out for what they thought would be an adventurous getaway. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the tall, dense trees seemed to close in around them. The air grew colder and the silence became oppressive. Lisa joked about the whispers they might hear, trying to lighten the mood, but Mark noticed her glancing over her shoulder more than once. That night, they set up camp near a small clearing. As the fire crackled, Mark began to feel uneasy. It was too quiet, no crickets, no rustling leaves, just silence. Lisa noticed it too. Then came the first whisper. It was faint, almost imperceptible, like someone speaking just out of earshot. Mark dismissed it as the wind, but Lisa shivered. Lisa, that didn't sound like the wind. The whispers grew louder as the night wore on. At first they seemed random, like meaningless murmurs, but soon the words became clear. Whispers. Get out, you don't belong here. They're watching. Mark and Lisa looked at each other, panic setting in. Mark, it's just our imagination. But his voice wavered. As they tried to sleep, the whispers continued, surrounding the tent. Lisa peeked outside with a flashlight but saw nothing. Mark, it's just the dark playing tricks on us. But then they saw them. Shadows moving in the distance, too large and too fast to be animals. The flashlight flickered, and for a moment the beam illuminated a figure. It was humanoid but impossibly tall, with elongated limbs and hollow eyes that seemed to glow faintly. Lisa screams. Mark grabbed a knife from their supplies. The figure melted back into the darkness, but the whispers grew louder, echoing all around them. Abandoning their tent, Mark and Lisa grabbed their backpacks and ran. The path they had taken earlier was gone, replaced by dense trees that seemed to shift and block their way. The forest felt alive, as if it were deliberately trapping them. The whispers became a cacophony of voices, angry, mocking, pleading. Lisa tripped over a root and screamed as something cold and bony grazed her ankle. Mark pulled her up, but when they turned, they saw dozens of glowing eyes staring at them from the darkness. They ran until they stumbled into a clearing. In the centre stood a massive gnarled tree with twisted roots that looked like grasping hands. Carved into its bark were names, hundreds of them. Mark and Lisa's names were among them, freshly etched. A voice, deep and ancient, boomed through the clearing. You were warned. The shadows emerged from the trees, their forms becoming more distinct, faces twisted in agony, their bodies contorted as if trapped between life and death. They reached for Mark and Lisa, their whispers now a deafening roar. Days later, a search party found their campsite. The tent was shredded and their belongings were scattered, but there was no sign of Mark or Lisa. All that remained was a single tree in the clearing, their names freshly carved into the bark. Locals added their story to the growing legend of the Whispering Forest, warning others never to enter. But the forest remains waiting for its next visitors. The Whispering Forest isn't just a place. It's a trap, a living entity that feeds on fear and despair. So if you ever hear whispers in the woods, turn back. Because if you don't, you might just become part of the legend.